The turmoil surrounding the recent US presidential election appears to have had an impact on the political preferences of Americans. A poll shows support for a third political party in the US is the highest it's been in nearly 2 decades. According to the study, significantly more than half of Americans now support the idea. It is the highest rate since the question first started being asked nationally by the Gallup polling group 18 years ago. The survey also saw a dramatic increase among Republicans favoring a third party, but a decrease among Democrats, down from 52% in September to 46% now. Well, to discuss what this means for US politics, we're joined by Daniel McAdams, Executive Director at the Ron Paul Institute, the US Green Party's National Co-Chair Trahern, and Julio Rivera, Editorial Director at the Reactionary Times online publication. Gentlemen, you're all very welcome to the programme. Julio, can we kick off with you? Nearly 2/3 of Americans see the need for a third party. That's the highest percentage since this poll first began. What's led to so many now thinking this way, do you think?
I think that there's a deep divide within the Republican Party that's actually the reason for this. I think that in the Republican Party, you have two factions. You have a conservative pro-Trump faction, and then you have the establishment side. The establishment side has really not been favorable to conservatives who see what's going on right now legislatively in America tantamount to basically having a uniparty. You basically have two progressive parties that are for big government, they're for reckless spending and growing the size of government, and all of these things that conservatives and libertarians have traditionally been against. So I think that with President Trump's basically his expulsion, if you want to call it that, from the mainstream GOP, you see backlash against him from, some of the leadership in the party, people like Mitch McConnell. Mitt Romney has always been opposed to President Trump. And these are the people that are seen as, the leadership in a lot of sense, as far as people having seniority within the party. And I think that a lot of these people that were new voters that were engaged behind President Trump see the GOP basically as having failed him. So I think a lot of those people probably were the respondents in the polls that have led to the spike in that number. Whether or not a third party is actually good for their cause is debatable, because generally third parties are seen mostly as a spoiler in America.
Daniel, why is this not linking up then? The number of third parties who hold office remains insignificant. Why is that when the polls suggest people do want alternatives?
Well, the system is rigged against them in the United States, and certainly my colleague from the Green Party understands this well. The system is rigged against libertarians and Green Party and others. The Democratic and Republican Party, as the previous speaker mentioned, they do collude. They do share the same philosophy. They're both part of the same welfare state. They share the same view toward power. The real problem is that government, that politics has playing too big of a role in the lives of Americans. It's become our national sport, and that is the real problem in the United States.
Trahern, a similar point to you. The number of public votes for third-party candidates, it isn't a factor. What's the biggest one reason for this? Is it a consequence of the winner-takes-all system, a lack of media coverage for third-party members, or do policies such as yours simply not chime with the American voter?
Oh, no, we have the Green Party of the United States has the best platform in America. And you'll see that the Democrats often, the Green New Deal, that's a Green Party policy. Universal health care, those are Green Party policies. Free college tuition, those are Green Party policies, but they get co-opted by the Democrats. But the Democrats really can't implement those policies because of their allegiance to their donor base. And that's the problem with both parties. Also, another reason why just this past election, we're in a pandemic, we were required to go out and gather, in some cases, thousands and thousands of signatures while we're not even we're supposed to say 6 feet away from people. There's this bill coming up, the HR 1 bill that Democrats are pushing, that are using the language of voter protection, but then it hurts third parties in presidential elections. So there's a lot of legislation that actually needs to be changed to make our elections more fair here in the U.S.
Julio, the poll also shows that more Republicans, as you were going through, are in favor of a third party than Democrats. What's your take? And if it did happen and the party actually split, surely that would just hand every election to the Democrats on a platter, Julio.
Yeah, I think so, and that's dangerous. But another element to this is that we're seeing the left, the Democrats are going far left, radically left. I mean, you know, if you look at the executive order signed into law by Joe Biden since he's become president, I mean, they're job killers. You know, this radical, you know, environmental platform that they're on, you know, we shut down the Keystone Pipeline. It's giving our energy independence away. And it's going to wind up, you know, once they start re-regulating all these industries and they're going to turn their back on the unions that basically funded the Democratic campaign this past election cycle, you're going to have a lot of lost jobs. You're going to have a lot of Democrats that are going to be upset with, you know, basically the policies that in a lot of ways they were lied to about as far as what they were going to do as far as to stimulate the economy. So you may have people leave the Democratic Party and maybe protest vote. I don't think the protest vote would necessarily go to a Republican Party, but if there's a new alternative, it may go there. The only problem to that is a lot of people are seeing the savior or the beacon behind that third party may be Donald Trump, and I think a lot of Democrats probably wouldn't want to vote for him. So it's an interesting situation, Unan.
Daniel, just to pick up on what you said, you're essentially up against a dominant two-party system with donors, extensive contacts, staff, infrastructure, all that comes with being the powerful entities in politics. Is the best you're actually hoping for, therefore, to disrupt?
Well, I think a strong message can change the world. I think we learned something from Ron Paul's campaigns in 08 and 12 that basically started a libertarian revolution. It hasn't succeeded at the polling places per se, but it is succeeding in the minds and hearts of people on both the left and the right, building a movement of people who are non-partisan, who are beyond partisan, who are transpartisan, which is the idea. Is the best way to break up the monopoly that's held and shared by the Republicans and Democrats, who are completely corrupt, who are not above cheating. They cheat all the time. They cheated Dr. Paul out of his primaries. There's plenty of cheating going on in 16 and in 20. So the idea, what we have to do is build a grassroots movement to ignore the things that we don't share in common, some of the things that are less important, and to focus on our shared values and ideologies.
Trahern, the last 30 seconds to you today. Power in the White House may be beyond you and third parties, but arguably you can have more say these days in Congress. Is that your focus?
Absolutely. State parties, governor races, even here locally, city council, mayor races. So we're going to start from the bottom up, but we also have some lobbying that we have to do, and I know third parties don't want to do that, but there's legislation that needs to be changed to make it make U.S. elections more fair for everybody and give voters more choices at their ballot box.
Thank you all very much for coming on the program today. Enjoyed it. Daniel McAdams, Executive Director at the Ron Paul Institute, the U.S. Green Party's National Co-Chair, Trahern Cruz, and Julio Rivera, Editorial Director at Reactionary Times. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, more great programs get their start in moments, and I'm back after that at the top of the hour. Hope to catch you then. Bye for now.